Hello everyone, myself Pana Rohit Reddy. I am going to discuss about how we're going to create a firewall in DigitalOcean and how we are going to create a VPC in the DigitalOcean system. As you can see here, the left part contains dashboard and the right part contains the various options that are provided by the DigitalOcean. Here I created a DigitalOcean tutorial instance, and then to create a firewall, you're going to head into networking section in the dashboard, and then we are going to open the firewall section. Here to create a new firewall, you can give a new name here, and then you have inbound rules and outbound rules. The name that I'm going to give for the firewall is the DigitalOcean First Firewall. So I am here creating a firewall. Then for the inbound rules refers to the firewall rules for incoming traffic, so that only specific IP address can access our DigitalOcean PC. And then the outbound rules specify that where we can access from the DigitalOcean PC, what we can access through the DigitalOcean PC. And then here we can use here various protocols. For example, TCP and the UDP protocols. TCP protocol refers to the transmission commission protocol, and then the UDP protocol refers to the user datagram protocol. TCP protocol is mainly used to create website and the server. And then if you see here we have hosted a Nginx website with the IP address 104.248.225.249. And this is where the DigitalOcean PC has been set up. And then from this, we can either access the other resources or the other resources can access this PC. So for this to specify the access or to specify who can access this DigitalOcean PC, we are going to set some firewall rules. And if you see here, there are so many protocols. For example, SSH, TCP, UDP, ICMP. These are all the protocols that we can set up, and whether we have to allow the request from the specific IP address, specific request types, or we have to not allow them. For example, here for the inbound rules, for the SSH type, the protocol is obviously TCP, and then the port range is 22. So what here we did is that we are going to allow the request from the requests which are of SSH type and that follow the IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. And then for the outbound rules, here the default one given is the ICMP. ICMP refers to Internet Control Message Protocols. And here also all IPv4 and IPv6 type requests are allowed. So, and the protocol in the sense is that in the way that we use English to communicate information, the same way these PCs use protocols in order to communicate the information. Okay. As we move on, there are two types of rules here, inbound rules and outbound rules. So first we're going to set up the inbound rules, and then we are going to set up the outbound rules. And that here, various protocols are used. TCP is the most famous one because TCP provides more reliability, unlike the UDP protocol. And then TCP has handshaking signals, there are mainly three handshaking signals. These handshaking signals can be used to initialize the path or to get to know about the neighbors of a particular node in the network. So as we move on, so now we are going to set up all the inbound rules. If we click on the type of the request, then you can see the various requests. Like it may contain various requests like SSH, TCP, and then the ICMP, and then the UDP, and then we have DNS TCP, and then DNS ICMP, and each have their specific port ranges. We can even make it custom, and then we can even specify the port range. For example, we can remove the SSH, the type SSH, and then we can place their custom, and then we can give port range of 80, or else we can directly give SSH, which takes port range of 22. So, and then we have various types like HTTP, HTTPS. As you can see here, we have TCP, UDP, SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, MySQL, DNS UDP, and DNS TCP. So each have specific port ranges, and we can allow or access the request from the each type, like whether it can be IPv4 or IPv6. And then we can add as many rules as we want, and then we can delete them if we don't want them. And then if you are not going to set anything in the outbound rules, then it's basically like we are not going to access anything on the internet, because the PC is not allowed to access anything if it is not set to anything. And then the inbound rules. So first we're gonna set here SSH and the HTTP and the HTTPS. Most of the requests in the today's world are of HTTP and HTTPS. So we are going to access the requests which are from HTTP, which are of type HTTP and then HTTPS. The HTTP refers to Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and the HTTPS refers to Hypertext Transfer Protocol with some security. The security can be either SSL or SSL. SSL refers to Secure Socket Layer. So we are going to connect to a website securely, and then we are going to exchange the information between the website and the server. So we're gonna set the request here, whether it can be SSH or TCP or ICMP. And then we can even set the custom request. So here I have set the HTTP and HTTPS requests, which are of protocol TCP, and the HTTP port range is 80, and then the HTTPS port range is 443. And the default sources are IPv4 and IPv6. And or else we can set the custom type, and then we can select the protocol, and then for the port range we can select either 443, so which specifies the HTTPS request. So I have selected the custom type here, and then I have selected the protocol as TCP instead of UDP, and then I have selected the port as 80. Here we have to specify the port if we do by selecting the custom type. But if we select the already existing type, then the port and the port range and the protocol will be automatically defined, and the source is also automatically defined. If we select the particular, if we select a type of, if we select an existing particular type, unlike the custom type. And then after setting all the inbound rules, we can set the outbound rules. These inbound rules and outbound rules play a major role, and we are not going to touch it once it has been set up. Like if I open the Nginx website where our website is posted, which has the IP address of 104.248.225.249 from so here, not everyone can access. So if I'm gonna refresh the website, you can see that the website isn't loading because we haven't allowed the request to come from the we haven't allowed the request to come from the either telnet or curl. We have only given access to HTTP, HTTPS, and the SSL. So now I'm going to open the terminal, and then I'm going to access our posted website using the curl command. For example, I have used the curl google.com. Here it showed all the Google data. Now I'm going to exit from the command line terminal, and then I'm going to set the outbound rules. For the outbound rules, we can set the ICMP and all TCP and all UDP so that we can access anything from our PC. So for the ICMP, there isn't any specific port range, but the destinations are of, if the destinations are of IPv4 and IPv6, then the computer gonna access it. And then the TCP and UDP are also same. And the firewall helps in like the major function of the firewall is that before accepting a request or before sending a request, it's gonna check whether the website has certain certificates that are valid, that are secure. Then only the request is made or the request is accepted. So these firewalls play a major role in maintaining security. So as we can see here, the outbound rules have been set up, and the inbound rules have been set up, and then we are going to apply to droplet. So we can create as many droplets as we want, and then if we don't want, we can even delete them. And then we have to specify a name to all these droplets so that we can identify all the droplets. So here we can tamper with the sources, like either I can remove IPv4 and IPv6. So if I remove these IPv4 and IPv6, then I am not going to accept the request which are not of IPv4 and IPv6. So like if I assume that I give a specific IP address like 1.1.1.1, then I am going to accept the request of type SSH. And if the what if the IP address is only 1.1.1.1, and if any computer that has some another IP and try to access this our PC which was hosted in DigitalOcean, then it is not going to accept it. So in order to make all these changes, we have to create a name for the droplet, and then we are going to update the settings, and we can use it. Here now I'm going to show how we can use it. Like you can open the terminal, and then you can see, like you can use the curl command to see this. So here now I'm going to use the curl command along with the see, if I open the SSH type, and then if I try to access it, you can see here it stuck at connecting. This shows that no one can access it if it is of type SSH, as we have removed the IPv4 and IPv6 sources. Here we have given 1.1.1.1. So only the request that comes from that IP address can access our DigitalOcean server, DigitalOcean PC that has been set up. And then if not, then it will be stuck infinitely in there, and then it fails to connect. So here we're going to change it back to all IPv4 and all IPv6. So IPv4 represents Internet Protocol of version 4, and then IPv6 represents Internet Protocol of version 6. So if we're gonna do this, say, as we can see here, now we are able to connect to that DigitalOcean server that has been created, and then we can edit the inbound on both the outbound rules too. Now I am going to remove the sources of the HTTP. So there won't be, so we are not going to accept any IPv4 and IPv6 requests. If I try to refresh the website, you can see that the website isn't loading, because now we are not going to accept the IPv4 and IPv6 request that has been made. We are not going to accept anything which are of type HTTP. So we are not going to access the server that has been set up in the DigitalOcean. Now I am changing it back to IPv4 and IPv6, and now I am going to save it. So if you refresh it, then it's gonna refresh, and then it is going to accept, because the IP address and the request made is of type IPv4. It can be either IPv4 or IPv6. And then we have outbound rules. So outbound traffic will only be allowed to the specified ports. All other traffics will be blocked. We have to make sure of this point. And then we have to specify to which we can make the request from the DigitalOcean server. So we can specify them, and generally we will maximize, like we will allow the DigitalOcean server to make requests to every other website. So the major use of the internet is to access the information. So if we're gonna set the type and the IP address to everything, so we can access everything that we want that is made available in the internet. And then as we move here, we have protocol, we completed the protocols, and then once the firewall is set up, then we shouldn't touch it. And then the IP address configuration is done, and we have seen the IPv4 and IPv6 protocols. This